Hello and welcome to the third part of the chapter on working with functions. I hope you have watched the previous parts of the series. If not, you can always go and check them out. The links are given in the description. So in this part, we are going to talk about returning values from functions. So let's begin with today's session. So returning values from functions. So functions, they may return a value or may not return a value. When there is a return statement in the function definition, we say that function returns a value. If there is no return type on the function definition, then we say that functions is not returning any value. So based on it, there are two types of functions. First is non-void function and second is the void functions. So let's begin with the non-void functions. So what are non-void functions? The functions that return some value are known as non-void functions. That means these are the functions which have a return type. So if you are working with non-void functions, then in the function definition, always a return type should be there. So these functions are also known as fruitful functions. So non-void functions also has a different name. It is also known as a fruitful function. So let's see the syntax of non-void function. In case of non-void function, what you need to do, you need to write return. After that, you can return a value like 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You can return a variable like x, y, z, or you can return an expression like x plus y, x into y, and so on. So let's try to understand about non-void functions with the help of an example. So the previous example that we saw is this particular example. What we did, we learned how to add two numbers using the concept of function. So if I run this particular, so what you will get here, you will get enter the first number. So let's say the first number is 4. Enter the second number, let's say the second number is 5, so you are getting the sum as 9. So in this particular program, what we are doing, what we are returning a variable. So return as denotes we are returning a variable. Instead of a variable, we can return a value also, or we can return an expression also. Let's show you how to return an expression. So let's say you want to return the expression directly, like you want to return p plus q directly. Then what you will do, you will not write this line, and instead what you can do here, you can return the expression p plus q directly. Will the program work properly now? So let's see. So enter the first number, let's say 7, enter the second number, let's say 3. So we are getting the correct answer. So remember, you can return either a variable or an expression or even a value also. Let's try to see how to return a value. So pay attention to this particular program. So here we have defined a function tt, and here inside the function definition, inside the function body, we have just one statement, that is return 3. So here what we are doing, we are returning a value. So how it will run? At first line number 1 will be executed. So if I trace it, how it will be traced, at first line number 1 will be executed, then line number 3 will be executed, then line number 4 will be executed. After that, again line number 1 will be executed, then line number 2 will be executed, then line number 4 will again be executed, and then line number 5. So what will be the output of this program? The output of this particular program will be hello 3. Okay, why? Because at first the line number 1 is executed, after that line number 3 is executed. In line number 3, what is there? Hello. So we are getting the first line of output as hello. After that, here tt function has been called. This is known as your function calling. The tt function has been called. After that, what is it returning? It is returning the value 3. After that, 3 is being stored in the variable x. So finally x has been printed. So we are getting the result as how much? We are getting the result as 3. So we can return 3 things: a variable, an expression, or a value. So in this particular program, what we have returned? We have returned a value. Okay, so let's go to the next topic, which is there are some properties of non-void functions. So let's go and see these properties. What is the first property? The first property is that the return value of a function must be used in any of the following ways. So after returning a particular value, from where is a value returned? A value is returned from the function definition. After returning a value, the value can be used in the following ways. What are the ways? The first way is this particular way. This is the way in which we used in our previous session. What we did the function calling, and after that the returned result has been stored in a variable add. Okay, the next way of storing the return value is this. We can directly call it within print statement, or we can even compare it. Let's try to show it to you with the help of an example. Okay, so let's consider the first program of addition of two numbers. Here what we were doing, so this is the line, this is the property number 1 of non-void functions. So here what we have done, whatever is the result of p plus q, it has been stored in the variable sum. After that we have displayed the variable sum. Instead of this, we can use the second syntax also, which is we can directly use this particular function calling in the last statement. Let's delete it. So what we can do here we can do the function calling c sum. We can directly use what are the variables that will be sent here. The variables will be x and y. So if I run this program, see, first number is 9, second number is 1, so I'm getting the correct answer as 10 itself. Okay, so this is the second way in which you can do function calling. Okay, instead of using another step of storing it in a different variable, you can directly use the function calling in a print statement. Let's see the third way. What is the third way? In the third way, we can compare. In function calling itself, we can compare the values. For example, what we can do here, if I give a statement like if c sum x comma y greater than 20, so what we can do, we can just write a statement, let's say greater, so we can give an else statement also, else print, let's say we can give here another statement called smaller. Okay, so let's see how it runs now. The other parts are same. Let's say we are giving here 9 and 1, so the sum is 10. So here the comparison has been done. I think you have understood till this part, so I'm going to explain this. So if c sum xy, that means if the return value of this particular function is greater than 20, then what will be printed? Greater. Otherwise what will be printed? Smaller. So according to our inputs, we have inputted what? 9 and 1. So what is the sum? The sum is 10, which is less than 20. So we are getting the output as what? We are getting the output as smaller. Similarly, let's give a greater value. Let's say 9 and 22. So the sum is 31. So after comparison, we are getting the output as greater. Okay. So these are the ways in which you can call a function. You can either call and store it in a variable. You can either, or what you can do, you can directly use it in the print statement, or you can use it as a part of the relational expression also. Let's go to the second property of non-void function. What is the second property? The return statement ends a function execution even if it is in the middle of a function. So it's not mandatory that the return statement should be at the end of the function definition. You can put the return statement at the middle of the function definition also. Let's go and see it with the help of an example. So let's say you were absent today in the class, and then when you come to the school in the next day, your teacher may ask why you were absent yesterday. You may say that you were sick, but actually what the reason of your absent was that you went to your cousin's wedding. So keeping this thing in mind, I have developed a program. So see, what is the name of the function? The name of the function is test. After that, what are the lines within the function definition? First is print I was sick. After that, we have given a return statement. After that, I have given print I went to my cousin's wedding. Let's say this is the thing which is in your mind. This is the real reason, and let's say this is the spoken reason. So how will this program run? So the program will run as follows. As at first, what will come? See, the first line will be executed. After that, the fifth line will be executed, which is why you are getting the first line of output as why were you absent yesterday. After that, there is a function calling. So the control has been transferred to line number 1 again. After that, what is being printed? I was sick. So you are getting in the output I was sick. After that, what we have? We have a return statement. Therefore, forcefully the function has been terminated and it has been returned. So we are getting the output as I was sick, but we did not get the output as I went to my cousin's wedding. Why we didn't get it? Because before this particular statement only we have used the return statement. Okay, so whenever a return statement is encountered, at that time what will happen? The value or whatever you are returning, it will come to the function calling itself. Okay, and you can leave, you may not return any value or variable or expression also. If you just write the return statement, then also the function definition will be terminated and control will return back to the function, return back to the main program. I hope you remember about main program. This is the main program and this part is the function definition. Okay, so which is the second property. The return statement ends a function execution even if it is in the middle of a function. Okay, that's all about non-void function. Let's go to the next one, which is the void function. Void function means the function that performs some action or do some work but do not return any computed or final value to the caller are called non-void function. So it is not necessary that function should have a return type. Functions may not have a return type also. So those functions which do not have any return type are known as void functions. Okay, so let's try to implement void function. Also, the second point is that functions that do not return any value are known as non-fruitful function. So functions which do not return any value, they are known as non-fruitful functions. Okay, let's try to implement non-fruitful function or functions which do not have any return type. So let's try to implement this part only. So what we will do here, I'll remove some lines. Let's say these lines are not required. So here, let's say this line is also not required. So what we'll do here, what is the name of the function? Let's call the function name is csum. So let's write here csum xy. So whatever value we'll be giving in x and y, it will be copied to p and q respectively, and after that the calculations will be performed based on it. So we are discussing about void functions, so no return type is required. So what we can do here is that, so you can just give here z equals to p plus q, and we can write here the result is, let's say, where is the result stored? The result is stored in z, so we can write here z. So is the function returning any value? No. Therefore this function is known as a what function? Void function. So let's run and see it. So enter the first number 9 and 1. So I'm getting the result as 10. So if you choose not to return a value, then the final computed result should be displayed within the function definition itself. Okay. Next, returning multiple values. So you may choose to return more than one values also. Okay, it's not mandatory that you have to return only one value or only one variable. You can return as much variables or expressions as you want. So If more than one value is returned, then it can be stored either in a single variable, which is stored as a tuple, or in more than one variables. Now, how will be the return result stored if you are using multiple return values? So the return result can be stored in a single variable also. If it is stored in a single variable, it will be stored in the form of a tuple. But if it is stored in multiple variables, then the variables can be displayed individually. It will be clear when we go to the programming part. So what is the syntax for returning multiple values? So we'll write the return statement. After that, value, variable or expression, whatever you want, you can just write the value or variables or expression by separating it with a comma. Here VL indicates the value, VAR indicates variable, and EXP indicates here what? It indicates your expression. So let's try to understand the concept of returning multiple values. So here there are two cases. We can store the result in a single variable, or we can store the result in multiple variables. Let's at first begin with storing the result in multiple variables. So this is a program. So write a program in Python to illustrate the concept of multiple return types using different variables for storage and display. Okay, so some parts will be common, so let me copy it from here so that we do not waste time here. So this parts will be common. So let's define a function. Let's say the function name is CLC. Let's say the variable names are xy. Okay, then we can choose to return. Let's say here we'll be performing addition, subtraction and multiplication together. So here what we can do, return x plus y, x minus y, we can do x into y. Okay, after that, so now we'll be storing the results in different variables. Let's say we'll give one variable add. Here we'll be storing the result of x plus y. Then let's say I'm giving a variable sub for storing the result of x minus y, and then let's say I'll be using a variable Pydroid for storing the result of x into y. So equals to, let's say I'll be giving here CALC x comma y. Here you may have used pq also or any other variable also, it does not matter. Okay, so after that what we can do, print, let's say sum. So addition is stored here, so print, let's say difference, let's say will be displayed in sub. Let's say next is product, and so the product is stored in the variable Pydroid, so we'll be displaying the variable Pydroid. So let's run and see. After that I'll be explaining it to you. So the output is enter the first number. Let's say I'll be entering 6. Enter the second number. Let's say I'll be entering 2. So the sum is 8, difference is 4, the product is 12. So here what we are doing, we are using multiple return type. We are returning multiple values or multiple expressions here, x plus y, comma x minus y, comma x into y. So how does the program run? At first line number 4 will be executed because 1, 2, 3 are comments. After that line number 6 will be executed, then line number 7. Then in line number 8, the function calling is happening here. So CALC x comma y. So what are the values? 6 and 2. So 6 and 2 will go and it will be copied to the variables x and y here itself. After that, x plus y, that is 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 will be returned and stored in the variable add. X minus y, that means 6 minus 2, 4 will be returned and it will be stored in the variable sub, and similarly for product also. After that, what we have done, we have displayed the variables. Okay, so this is a program in which we are using different variables for storage and display. So now what we can do, we can use only a single variable also for storage and display. Let's try to understand how to use a single variables for storage and display. For that, let me copy this part. So see the name of the program, write a program in Python to illustrate the concept of multiple return types using single variable for storage and display. Here we are using 3 variables for storage and display, but in this program we'll be using only 1 variable for storage and display. As per the theory, it will be stored in the form of a tuple. Okay, let's try to implement it. So I'll be using the same function calc and I'll be using the same operations. These 2 lines will be the same. Just what will be changed here, I'll be using only 1 variable. Let's say the variable is z, and what I can do here, I can just print out operations in sequence. Let's say at first we'll be displaying the at first which result will be displayed, the result of addition. It will be in the sequence only. Then the difference result will be displayed. After that, which result will be displayed, the product will be displayed here. Okay, so it is stored in which variable? It is stored in the variable z. Okay, let's save it. Okay, and let's run it. So enter the first number. I'll give the previous sets of input only. Let's say I'll be giving 6 and 2. So you are getting the answer as operations in sequence, addition, difference, product. Addition is 8, difference is 4, and the product is 12. So here it is the same as the previous problem, just with the difference that I am using only a single variable for storage. This is the using the single variable for used for what? Storage. Here I am using z for what? Here I am using z for display. Okay, so I hope this session was useful. I'll see you again in the next class.